Hey, what's happening, guys? What's going on YouTube? Good morning, everybody. You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. In today's video, we're going to be covering an article called Welcome to the Yolo Economy, and this one comes to us from dnyuz.com. I'm not even really sure what this publication is. I'm guessing it's like Daily New York Gazette or something like that. But this publication actually does a lot of interesting articles on like millennial and Gen Z finance and careers and lifestyle. And I thought this was an interesting one. This one kind of talks about how coming out of the past year of lockdowns and things like that, a lot of millennials are throwing caution to the wind, walking away from pretty prestigious jobs, good careers, and doing kind of less conventional things, whether that be moving to a different city, deciding to freelance, deciding to quit their job to go full-time on a side hustle, launching a business, buying a house in a new city. But people are really throwing caution to the wind, saying YOLO, and kind of shaking up their lives. And I think this is really cool because that's kind of what kind of got me to start this channel. Now, obviously, this channel is about business and entrepreneurship and making money online. But I think there's a deeper reason why a lot of us like business and entrepreneurship and making money online. And yeah, well, business is fun and it's rewarding and it's kind of a hobby and everything else. It's also pretty much the only path to financial independence and living on your own terms. I remember when I made my first dollar online, or actually not even my first dollar. I remember when I made my first penny online. There was something very empowering about knowing I didn't have to sell my time to make, and it was an insignificant amount of money in a sense, right? It was a penny or 10 cents, but I didn't have to sell my time for this money. Somebody didn't give me this money. I had an idea. I kind of put that idea into action, and I kind of created something out of nothing, and that's really kind of empowering. What's even cooler is, when I made 10 cents through AdSense. I think that was kind of the first making money online thing I ever did. And then it was a quarter. And I remember thinking to myself, if I could double this quarter and make 50 cents, that would be cool. But if I can double the 50 cents, now I got $1. And while making $1 a day may not seem that exciting to a lot of people, at the time I was working kind of a dead end job. I was definitely kind of check to check. I had some credit card debt. And I often found myself scraping, change out of the couch cushions and hitting Coinstar machines the day or 2 days or 3 days before payday in order to be able to put gas in my car to get to work, or so that I would be able to buy lunch at work that day. And even though, $30 a month may not seem like a lot of money, that's a tank of gas, or, that's a double stack with cheese from Wendy's every day. And that was pretty exciting to me. And I finally got it making $1 a day. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm making $30 a month. If I can make, if I can create another blog that does this as well, that's $60 a month. And you just kind of see things start to grow and scale and snowball. And it's very, very empowering. And so that's kind of why I started this channel. And then kind of even further than that, there's a book, I forget the name of the book, but there's a book that kind of talks about two mountains that every man is kind of chasing after or whatever. And, the first mountain is kind of trying to acquire financial independence or give yourself more freedom so that you can kind of live life on your own terms and do things what you want. And then once you kind of tackle that mountain, the next mountain is kind of finding a passion project or trying to find something that kind of gives you fulfillment. And it seems like that's kind of what this whole YOLO economy thing is about. Now, this article didn't really touch on investments or crypto or the Robinhood stuff. But I would definitely say there's also another YOLO economy in the world of investing. And I've actually heard a lot of discussions online where people are saying has this past year kind of changed investing forever? And I think it definitely has. You got a lot more people getting into crypto, but beyond that, just I think everybody's already known that the stock market is manipulated, but when we saw Robinhood shut down trading when GameStop started going nuts, that really highlighted in your face how rigged the stock market is and how much control people in power have. I think in a lot of ways it's going to kind of turn people off to the stock market and send more people into crypto. Obviously, the crypto markets are manipulated as well, but at least there's not one person who makes the rules who's also centrally controlling it and can change the rules after the fact. But I also think to a large extent, investing has kind of changed forever as well. But let's get into this article. Welcome to the YOLO economy. Something strange is happening to the exhausted Type A millennial workers of America. After having spent a year hunched over their MacBooks, enduring back-to-back Zoom meetings in between sourdough loaves and Peloton rides, they are flipping the carefully arranged chessboards of their lives and deciding to risk it all. And, that's one thing I wanted to touch on as well. I don't want to get kind of too far off track, but one of the reasons I started this channel was to kind of, I was kind of seeing like, you don't necessarily have to follow the traditional path, whether that be go to high school, go to college, get a job, get the white picket fence, whatever else it may be, that there's kind of different ways to live. And obviously school isn't set up to churn out creative thinkers or individual people. School is kind of set up to get people ready for the workforce. That's why it's kind of like sit down, shut up, learn to sit in a chair for 8 or 10 hours a day. Don't think creatively, just sit here and read this and then memorize it and be able to, vomit what you remembered back out to me. Like that's kind of what school was designed to do. There's kind of a funny phrase, the world is run by C students, and it's funny and it's true, because people who tend to do well in school are people who tend to do very well in structured environments, right? So they're organized, they can sit down and shut up, they can memorize things, they can kind of play the game that school is. And those people are going to do well in life. They're going to do well in college, they're going to get good jobs, and they're probably going to have successful lives. But the people who are going to do really, really big things are the people who are innovative, the people who are problem solvers, the people who are creative. And those people aren't necessarily the ones who succeeded that well in school. But also, just going along with the whole school thing, like society as a whole is set up to kind of make everybody follow this same format of what you're supposed to do. And it's really tough to kind of break out of that. I remember when I left my job to work on my business full time, it was a really tough thing to do. And my business was making 3 to 4 times what I was making at my job. My job was kind of a dead-end job, but I had a hard time wrapping my head around, like, I'm going to leave this stable, traditional job with benefits and go do my own thing. And I remember as I left, my parents, who aren't entrepreneurs and always had jobs and things like that, my dad was saying to me, you have to have a 401k set up, and you have to have health insurance. You can't leave a job without health insurance. And was kind of further pounding into my head this idea that you have to follow this certain path. And for probably like the first year of working for myself, it was really odd that like I didn't have to be in the office at a certain time. It was really kind of weird, like mentally or from a psychological type of way. The idea that like I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go to this office that I pay for and it's mine, and I'm gonna go in there when I want, and if I want to make money, I have to produce. I'm not just going to get a paycheck after 2 weeks. But it was really kind of a mind fuck, and it was kind of a hard thing to kind of wrap my head around. And also just the idea that like I can take vacation whenever I want. It just seemed very weird not to be in the structure of society that everybody else is kind of in. And I guess kind of I'm getting a little bit off track, but with this whole kind of YOLO economy thing, since birth, you've kind of been programmed to kind of do the same thing as everybody else. And it seems like a lot of millennials right now are kind of abandoning that. And what I think is kind of interesting is, I don't know if you want to get into conspiracies or talk about like the elite or whoever else, but in terms of the pandemic was kind of in some ways designed to control people and things like that. But at the same time, it kind of wound up having an adverse effect where it kind of made people rethink things like, why the fuck am I going to an office for 8 hours a day? And so you have a lot of millennial employees who are kind of telling their employers, look, I'm going to work remote forever. And if that's an issue, you can just fire me, but I'm not coming back to the office. Or, you know what, fuck you, I quit. I got this little side hustle going. I'm going to move to a different city and kind of try to grow that. So people are kind of breaking out of these kind of traditional roles or traditional ideas that a lot of us have. Back into the article, let's see. Some are abandoning cushy and stable jobs to start a new business, turn a side hustle into a full-time gig, or finally work on that screenplay. Others are scoffing at their bosses' return to office mandates and threatening to quit unless they're allowed to work wherever they want. They are emboldened by rising vaccination rates and a recovering job market. Their bank accounts, fattened by a year of stay-at-home savings and soaring asset prices, have increased their risk appetites. And while some of them are just changing jobs, others are stepping off the career treadmill altogether. If this movement has a rallying cry, it's YOLO, you only live once, an acronym popularized by the rapper Drake a decade ago and deployed by cheerful risk takers ever since. The term is a meme among stock traders on Reddit who use it when making irresponsible bets that sometimes pay off anyways. Let's see. This year's GameStop trade was the archetypal YOLO. More broadly, it has come to characterize the attitude that has captured a certain type of board office worker in recent months. To be clear, the pandemic is not over, and millions of Americans are still grieving the loss of jobs and loved ones. Not everyone can afford to throw caution to the wind, but for a growing number of people with financial cushions and in-demand skills, the dread and anxiety of the past year are giving way to a new kind of professional fearlessness. And I think this is really cool to see. I know for a long time, a lot of people have wanted to see a shift to a different kind of work-life balance. People want 6-hour work days as opposed to 8 or 10-hour work days. People want 4-day work weeks as opposed to 5, 6, or 7-day work weeks. People want more freedom, and it seems like people, I guess, because financially they're doing better, are in a position to kind of demand these things. And that's why I think financial independence and being frugal is so important. When you're less reliant on other people, it's essentially what fuck you money is, right? When you're not reliant on somebody else, when you're not reliant on a job, if somebody, starts fucking you around or whatever, you can pretty much say fuck you and move on. And if you're financially secure, you have the freedom to kind of make those decisions. It's kind of funny. I know they kind of talked about the pandemic isn't over. I just got back from Florida. I apologize. No, I haven't made a video in a little while. I had to put my dog to sleep a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was just like maybe 2 weeks ago. Actually, not even 2 weeks ago. And that was pretty rough. So took some time off and then went down to Florida for the past week or two. And it's amazing down there. I was, listening to live music. I was out at bars. People are shaking hands. People who want to wear masks are wearing masks, but you don't have to wear a mask. And it was kind of a pleasant taste of real life again. So the world is going on in some places. Let's see, I kind of gotten off track here. I started hearing these stories this year when several acquaintances announced that they were quitting prestigious and high-paying jobs to pursue risky passion projects. Since then, a trickle of LinkedIn updates has turned into a torrent. I tweeted about it, and dozens of stories poured into my inboxes, all variations of the same basic theme. The pandemic changed my priorities, and I realized I don't have to live like this. And, I've actually seen a couple friends do kind of similar things. I had one buddy who quit a job he hated in the middle of the pandemic, and I was kind of like, wow, it's kind of, you think you really picked a good time to do this. Things are kind of rocky right now. Is right now the time you want to leave a job? But he just kind of said, fuck it. And, it's kind of funny. He hasn't even been at this job for probably 6 months, and he's already fed up with it. This buddy of mine, he's an accountant, but it's really kind of a weird job for him. I feel like accounting is a profession where things are very like stringent and exact, and you're definitely like the type who did well in school. And he's a smart dude, but he's he's someone who likes to go to music festivals and do drugs and travel, and he just doesn't have. He's definitely kind of a free thinker, and he just doesn't necessarily have the personality to work in accounting. At least that's kind of what I think. And so now he's actually getting ready to quit this job. I think he's trying to stash a little bit more money away, but he's getting ready to quit this job, and he's just going to go travel the country for a year. He actually did it a couple years ago. I think I had talked about maybe getting him on the channel, but I think it's kind of cool. In the 4-hour work week, Tim Ferriss talked about, taking mini retirements or mini sabbaticals. Why wait until you're 70 years old and, not having energy and can't move and aren't healthy to go experience these amazing things that the world has to offer? Why not take a break in your 20s or in your 30s for 6 months or a year or even 3 months and go travel and live life and kind of enjoy your money and enjoy your travels while you still can? And it's kind of what my buddy's doing. He's just going to say, fuck it. He did this a couple years ago. Had been out of college for a couple years, working, hated his job, hated accounting, quit, traveled around the country, kind of camping and sleeping out of his car for 3 or 4 months, then went over to Europe for another 3 or 4 months, eventually kind of ran out of money, came back and got another job, but he's thinking about doing it all over again. And that's kind of these stories that this article is talking about. Brent Williams, 33, a lawyer in Orlando, Florida, had his YOLO epiphany during a Zoom mediation in February. I realized I was sitting at my kitchen counter 10 hours a day feeling miserable, he said. I just thought, what do I have to lose? We could all die tomorrow. So he quit, leaving behind a partner position and a big firm salary to take a job at a small firm run by his next door neighbor and spend more time with his wife and dog. I'm still a lawyer, he said, but I haven't been as excited to go to work in a long time. Olivia Messer, a former reporter with the Daily Beast, also quit in February after realizing that a year of covering the COVID pandemic had left her exhausted and traumatized. No shit. Like, I don't know how, I think we're going to see that with a lot of people in the media. The media is such a joke. We know that they lie to us. We know that it's all clickbait. We know that it's all hype. We know that they shape the narratives they want to put out. So I don't know how anybody in good conscience could work for traditional media, but I can also understand kind of the COVID angle, right? Like, maybe you used to write about lifestyle or, music or food, or, maybe you used to write about something actually interesting. And then not only do all those things shut down for a year, but you essentially have the publisher you work for saying, look, every day we're going to write about COVID and we're going to write these crazy fear-mongering stories that show the worst part of it. Like, no shit, you're going to be traumatized after covering nothing but COVID 24/7 for a year. Olivia Messer went on to say, I was so drained and depleted that I didn't feel like I knew how I could do my job anymore, she said. So Miss Messer, 29, announced her departure and moved from Brooklyn to Sarasota, Florida, near her parents. I actually just got back from Sarasota. Awesome city. I still think I might rather be in St. Pete. I feel like Sarasota is kind of cleaner, nicer, safer. St. Pete is a little bit more exciting. But I'm actually looking at it for pretty much the past year, but especially now I've been looking at houses down there, and I've kind of shifted my my search a little bit from St. Pete more so to Sarasota. Since then, she has been doing freelance writing as well as pursuing hobbies like painting and kayaking. She acknowledged that not all people could uproot themselves so easily, but she said the change has been restorative. I have this renewed creative sense about what my life could look like and how fulfilling it can be, she said. And, I think one interesting thing to point out is, a lot of articles like this are talking about like programmers, coders, Google workers, engineers, people who are doing very well financially. And I think that this type of media article can kind of set the narrative that like this pandemic has been awesome. Like everybody got to stay home. They got to pet their dog all day while they worked. People got more money than ever because they're not going out to bars. Like there are a shitload of people who are struggling. There's people who lost, or I shouldn't say there's people who lost their homes because we've had no rent payments and, eviction moratoriums and things like that for the past year. But eventually these people are going to be out on their ass. A lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people have been financially ruined. And I think it's important to keep that in perspective. I tend to notice like online and things like that, and a lot of the people who are quote unquote enjoying the pandemic the most are people who are financially very well off and continued working from home throughout the pandemic and kind of had a cushy last year. So I think it's important to point out that that's not everybody, and this isn't necessarily the norm. If languishing is 2021's dominant emotion, YOLOing may be the year's defining workforce trend. A recent Microsoft survey found that more than 40% of workers globally were considering leaving their jobs this year. Blind, an anonymous social worker that is popular with tech workers, recently found that 49% of its users plan to get a new job this year. We've all had a year to evaluate if the life we're living is one we want to be living, said Christina Wallace, a senior lecturer at Harvard Business School, especially for younger people who have been told to work hard, pay off your loans, and someday you'll get to enjoy your life. A lot of them are questioning that equation. What if they want to be happy right now? And this kind of goes along with the whole Tim Ferriss 4-hour workweek thing. Fearful of an exodus, employers are trying to boost morale and prevent burnout. LinkedIn recently gave the majority of its employees a paid week off. Twitter employees have been given an extra day off per month to recharge under a program called Day of Rest. Credit Suisse gave its junior bankers $20,000 lifestyle allowances. Well, Houlihan Lokey, another Wall Street firm, gave many of its employees all-expense paid vacations. Raises and time off may persuade some employees to stay put, but for others, the stasis is a problem, and the only solution is radical change. It feels like we've been so locked into careers for the past decade, and this is our opportunity to switch it up, said Nate Mosley, 29, a buyer at a major clothing retailer. Mr. Mosley recently decided to leave his $130,000 a year job before June 1st, the date his company is requiring workers to return to the office. He created an Excel spreadsheet called Late 20s Crisis, which he filled with potential options for his next career move: take a coding class, start mining Ethereum, join a 2022 political campaign, and move to the Caribbean and open a tourism business. He looks at it regularly, he said, and adding new pros and cons for each option. The idea of going back to the pre-COVID setup sounds unappealing after this past year, he said. If not now, when will I ever do this? Disillusioned workers with money to spare have always gone soul-searching, and it's possible that some of these YOLOers will end up back in stable jobs if they spend through their savings or their new ventures fizzle, but a daredevil spirit seems to be infecting even the kinds of risk-averse overachievers who typically cling to the career ladder. In part, that's because more people than ever can afford to take risks these days. Stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment benefits, and a stock market boom have given many workers bigger safety nets. And I would say crypto as well. There are a lot of people who made a lot of money in this past year off meme stocks, off Dogecoin, off a lot of things. I heard a story the other day about a father who put a stimulus check into Dogecoin and became a millionaire. I have a buddy who stupidly, I say stupidly, wound up working out for him, but stupidly was buying Dogecoin instead of like quality cryptocurrencies. But he wrote it from under 2 cents up to the recent highs. So a lot of people got some money to burn and kind of have a little bit of fuck you money right now. Many sectors now face severe labor shortages. I've been seeing a lot of articles about this, meaning that workers in those fields can easily find new jobs if they need them. Not all of these are high-tech. Many restaurants and trucking companies, for example, are still struggling to fill jobs. U.S. openings rose to a 2-year high in February, and economists and business owners expect more turnover in the months ahead as workers who stayed put during the pandemic start emerging from their bunkers. Lots of things were on hold during the pandemic, said Jed Koklow, the chief economist at Indeed.com. To some extent, we're seeing a year's worth of big life changes starting to accelerate now. In addition to the job hopping you'd expect during boom times, the pandemic has created many more remote jobs and expanded the number of companies willing to hire outside of big coastal cities that have given workers in remote areas, in remote-friendly industries such as tech and finance, even more leverage to do what they want. Man, this is a long article. Employees have a totally precedented ability to negotiate in the next 18 to 48 months, said Jonathan Nightingale, an author and co-founder of Raw Signal Group, a management training firm. If I, as an individual, am dissatisfied with the current state of my employment, I have so many options other than I used to have. Individual YOLO decisions can be chalked up to many factors: cabin fever, low interest rates, and emergence of the new get-rich-quick schemes like NFTs and meme stocks, but many seem related to a deeper generational disillusionment and a feeling that the economy is changing in ways that reward the crazy and punish the cautious. And I think that's definitely true, right? Like with the low interest rates, it's kind of stupid to save money. You might as well, not spend everything, but invest everything, because there's no benefit to saving. A lot of these cautious things that people have done for a long time aren't really being rewarded, hence stocks like Robinhood going crazy, hence investing in things like Dogecoin and NFTs. Several people in their late 20s and 30s, mostly those who went to good schools, work in high prestigious industries, and would never be classified as essential workers, told me that the pandemic has destroyed their faith in the traditional white-collar career path. They had watched their independent-minded peers getting rich by joining startups or gambling on cryptocurrencies. Meanwhile, their bosses were drowning them in mundane work or trying to automate their jobs, and were generally failing to support them during one of the hardest years of their lives. The past year has been telling for how companies really value their workforces, said Letitia Bird, a career coach in Charlotte, North Carolina. It has become challenging to continue to work for companies who operate business as usual without taking into account how our lives have changed overnight. Ms. Bird, who primarily coaches women of color in fields like tech, finance, and media, said that in addition to suffering from pandemic-related burnout, many minority employees felt disillusioned with their employers' shallow commitments to racial justice. Diversity, equality, and inclusion are extremely important now, she said. Employers want to know, is this company going to support me? Not every burned-out worker will quit, of course. For some, extended vacations or a more flexible work week might quell their wanderlust, and some workers might find that returning to an office helps restore balance to their lives. But for many of those who can afford it, adventure is in the air. One executive at a major tech company who spoke on the condition of anonymity because she was not authorized to talk to media said she and her husband had both been discussing quitting their jobs in recent weeks. The pandemic, she said, had taught them that they've been playing it too safe with their life choices and missing out on valuable family time. The executive then sent me a quote from the Buddha about the impertinence and the value of realizing that nothing lasts forever, or to put it slightly earthlier terms, YOLO. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this article. Hopefully it maybe gives you some things to think about. Are any of you guys feeling like this? Are you thinking about moving to a new city? Are you thinking about quitting a job, changing career path? Let me know if you guys are kind of experiencing either this burnout or this wanderlust and what you plan on doing about it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.